The Jawbreakers are back, but not for long. You know, when people say you have to kill your darlings, they don't mean all of them. You know what's a really good idea when you're coming off the smashing success of one of the most profitable crowdfunding comics in history? Well, it definitely ain't killing the entire fucking cast. God damn, I'm reading this book and I'm over here like switching the Matrix. Not like this. Not like this. Hell Priest, dead. Knife Hand, dead. Devil Dog, well, he died in the other book. Shut up. Did you like Zashi? Yeah, didn't she die in Jawbreakers Lost Souls? Yeah. Well, now she's back, so he can kill her again. The whole fucking Jawbreakers team is dead, although, ironically, only the white people. The black dude and the Asian dude survive. Hey, Richard Kill 'em all Meyer, you're supposed to be racist. You're doing it wrong. But in all seriousness, Richard Meyer is back with another Jawbreakers tale, and he raises the stakes just to drive them 6 feet under. If you're attached to any of these characters, just remember he can always tell old stories with them, but if you want new ones, there's just 2 of them left. Now, before I get into this, full disclosure, I was one of the people who proofread the book. I think I was part of the 168th review, so it was basically immaculate. I got paid for that, and only that. I've purchased the book, and I will get a physical copy once the book ships. Your boy Zach asked me to use the PDF he provided for proofing to do the review, so here we are. Now, this story picks up where the final 2-part story from the Lost Souls trade ended. We get a recap of the events of the book, and then we get into the God King story. This is followed by several short stories, one about Zashi, then Devil Dog, and then a preview for Desolation Wave, another comic coming down the pipeline. I like this setup because you get a big story and then some vignettes with different characters. I think this works well except for the Desolation Wave preview, and that's because it's an unrelated story. It feels out of place as a result. Not bad, but very much like watching Rambo and then suddenly watching Star Trek. So I'm going to focus on God King because that's why we're here. Like I mentioned before, there's a recap section with beautiful art by Gabriel Major and Bob Stone. Just drink this in. I'd love to see a whole book done like this. The recap just goes over what happened in the previous trade, although there is one part that seems out of place, and that's this caption about Knife Hand and his ninja clan. We're going through what happened to get the team to Nigeria, and then we get this random bit about the ninja clan, and then it's right back to Nigeria. It's info we need to know, but it's oddly placed. And then we get into the main story, which is drawn by Aaron Alfece. Probably not Italian, but I'm going to say it like that anyway. Aaron's art is pretty good. There is no shortage of dynamic posing. He kinda has a similar 90s style look like John Malin's work, but with a little modern touch. There are very few pages that don't have highly detailed backgrounds. I mean, dude drew the cars. The fucking cars. Nobody draws the cars. He drew the cars in 3-point perspective. Did he have to draw every window in the buildings? No. Did he? Yes. Look how much I'm zoomed in. I'm down to the pixels. That's where he gave up. Just amazing detail. There is a little wonkiness with some of the figures where they're not always drawn the same, but nothing severe. Nothing that takes you out of the story. I don't even know how that could happen because he kills it with every pose. So many good angles and shots. I mean, just look at this. Now imagine how much better he's going to be when he hits that Olivier Coipel level, because he's right there. When that happens, I don't think Richard Chastity Ain't My Middle Name Meyer will be able to afford him. The colors are by Color Channel and they're pretty good as well. The story takes place at night, so there's some muted tones and values, and that makes the color pop really stand out. I think the scenes with Knife Hand in particular are very visually dynamic. As for the story, it's good. It's very action heavy, way more than Lost Souls, and reads fast. I've read this thing 4 times, and that took less time than reading one of Jonathan Hickman's House of X books. The story is fun, it definitely pulls you in, but leaves you asking lots of questions, and the reviewer formerly known as DNC is in full diva mode because he's not explaining shit. You got questions? Fuck your questions. I don't care about your questions. It's not that bad, but he did admit in one of his videos that the proofreaders were bringing this stuff up, like what the character's powers are or who that villain is that Silkworm totally punks, and he just wasn't going to address that. which is bad because it leaves the reader confused. Let's start from the beginning. We open up with what's left of the team: Silkworm, a clone of his daughter Autumn, Hellpriest, and Cuffs, surrounded by enemies they've previously killed. This is fine because it's showing off their long history and how powerful the God King is. Then we get this cool moment where Silkworm says that everyone's got 2 seconds to leave or he'll kill them again, and all but one of them parts ways. So you know, however he killed them before, it was wrong. Like, turn me into a 10-year-old boy and drop me in the middle of a seminary because that's going to be better than being killed by this man again wrong. So you've got to imagine that whoever stays has balls of steel. Well, this guy does, not that it helps, but we don't know anything about him. He starts talking like Venom after this thing covers him, then it ditches him for Silkworm, we don't know why, but then immediately jumps off of him claiming that it's ruined by him. Then Silkworm beats up the guy who I'm going to assume is named Dilettante because that's a really bad name for the monumental ass whooping he gives this dude. Here's the problem. I don't know what's going on. These two know each other, but I don't know how or why, and it seems like I should. I haven't been this confused since I jumped into the middle of a season of 24. This is where some captions would help, or the cliched but effective fighting conversation where we get a quick recap of their connection. Without it, it's kind of like when Mira shows up in Justice League. Am I supposed to be impressed? Why? I don't know what's going on. We get a little moment between Cuffs and Silkworm that I won't ruin, but the gist is that Silkworm was fishing for information about the God King. He cuts to the crew waiting for Hellpriest to get into position with the God Gun, the gun that supposedly caused the Big Bang, and that's the only thing that can kill the God King. Then we get to see what happens if you give John Wick powers, because Knife Hand just massacres everyone to get into this building to confront his father for leaving him in the clutches of this ninja clan. Now, I don't mind the scene, but it does feel like it should carry more weight than it does, and I think that's because we haven't been with these characters enough to really be invested in them. We kind of casually know them, so even though the scene itself is powerful, we don't have the emotional connection to it. We just get to see how much of a dick this dude's father is and how badass Knife Hand is because he walks after getting both his Achilles tendons cut. Then we cut back to the rest of the team getting into this mech to fight the God King's mech, and again, there's some nice banter I don't want to ruin. I do love this random Princess Leia moment from Silkworm's not daughter. We did it! Anyway, they get ready to have their half-assed Gundam fight, while Hellpriest gets attacked by Knife Hand. If you read Lost Souls, then you may recall that Knife Hand ditched the team the moment they arrived in New York. This is in the recap too. He basically crucifies Hellpriest, while the rest of the team gets manhandled by the God King. But it turns out he's actually still on the team's side, and he sacrifices himself to fire the God Gun, blasting a hole in the God King's mech. Which begs the question, why did he crucify Hellpriest? He could have just knocked him out. He didn't literally have to nail him to a wall. So, Silkworm's not daughter gets captured, and he and Cuffs go to save her only for Cuffs to be turned into cubes. Silkworm then reveals that he knows the truth about the God King, that he's all too human, and he figures this out in a really clever way. When the team arrived in New York, all their weapons were turned into flower petals, and Silkworm counted the petals made from his gun, and the number matched the number of parts of that gun. Basically, whatever device the God King uses can change the appearance and structure of something, but not entirely. And the power doesn't work inside the God King's sanctum. So Silkworm gets his gun back as soon as he goes in there, and does this. Unfortunately, that's exactly what the God King wanted him to do, and this is where I got really confused. So, the God King grew up on the planetoid his family formed using their powers, and basically remained a boy for thousands of years. One day, superheroes from Earth arrive and take him back to Earth. So, is he an alien or human? I'm not sure. Were his parents human or from Earth? If so, how did they end up in this end zone where time runs so differently? If not, why did the heroes think he was human? Better yet, how does he know what Earth is? Lots of confusion here, and it pulled me right out of the story. The rest of his origin kind of makes sense. The God King's hatred of his rescuers got the attention of evil gods who make a deal to make him a god as well, but they need a blood sacrifice. First from those who trust him, which end up being heroes, then his own blood, which was probably a trick from the gods to renege on the deal, but the suit resurrects him after Silkworm killed him. The last blood needed is that of an innocent, which he gets from Silkworm's not daughter. The portal opens, and then he goes to be made into a god until an actual badass jumps through and is like, look, you can have this side pussy or you can have the real deal. And Swole Kenny G is like, nuh-uh, I am the real deal. I am, for real. Stop it, you ruin everything. And in that moment, Hellpriest sacrifices himself to fire the God gun and seal the portal, and possibly kill the Dark Gods. They may or may not be dead, it's not really clear. This somehow undoes the God King's powers, so Cuffs returns to normal. The clone of Silkworm's daughter dies, and the story ends with him finally going to see his real daughter. Overall, I think it's a good and entertaining story. The parts that aren't explained really do need to be explained because it's just a confusing mess without something to ground the reader to the story. It ends up having things happen without any context, and if I want that, I know whose books to read. I mean, it is almost the season. That's pretty much the only problem I have with the story though. Otherwise, it flows well, the dialogue works, the banter is solid. We just need a little more connection to the characters, and that's where the side stories come in. For example, Chuck Dixon's Devil Dog story instantly connects you with that character. And if you read that and then read the main stories featuring him, I think it'll hurt more when he dies. This might be one of those things where once there are enough stories, it'd be cool to read them in chronological order. So if you haven't picked this up yet and you want to check it out, you still have a tiny bit of time to do it. I believe the campaign will be closing midday this Saturday, so move quickly if you want it. I'll leave the link down below. And since the book hasn't been released yet, I'm pretty sure nobody is going to be able to add any reviews, but anyone who wants to comment about their thoughts about the book, go ahead, leave them in the comments down below. Thanks for listening.